These are notes on the nervous system, which is the last system we're going to diagram as a class. So the nervous system, there's really only three main things you need to diagram for the nervous system. And that's the brain, the spinal cord, and then this web or system of nerves. And the nervous system is divided into two subcategories. The first is the central nervous system, and the second is the peripheral nervous system. So peripheral means on the edges or on the boundary. Central obviously means in the center. So looking at our little guy here, so the first thing is the brain. So the brain is, of course, up here. And then you're going to label that brain. And then we have the spinal cord going all the way down to approximately the tailbone, somewhere around there. And then, so that you're going to label spinal cord. So that's that. That is the brain. And then you have this web of nerves. And similar to the circulatory system, where there was no way you could draw every vein and artery and capillary, there's no way you're going to be able to draw every nerve. Nerves go all over your body. They're a little different from capillaries in that capillaries truly do pretty much go every single place in your body because every cell in your body needs blood brought to it, whereas there are places in your body where there aren't nerve endings. The nerves don't go there. So it is definitely a web, and it goes most places in your body, but not as much as the capillaries. But so, you just want to draw kind of the nerves branching off the spinal column or the spinal cord. And what I think is important is some of these nerves are shorter, and some of them, though, are incredibly long. Some of them are going to stretch all the way like down your legs, for example. And so your nerves, and each nerve is actually a nerve cell. It's one cell. These nerves are some of the largest cells in your body, simply because they stretch so far. And so there is my web of nerves. You'll notice there are some that are even kind of coming out from the brain here. And so that is my web of nerves. Pretty easy. And then, so that's that. All right, so now let's look at what some of the definitions are. Okay, so first we have the peripheral nervous system. And normally I would start with the central nervous system, but I'm actually going to use the term peripheral nervous system when I tell you about the central nervous system, which is why I want to make sure that you know what that is first. So first we're going to talk about the peripheral nervous system. And this word peripheral, which is probably new to a lot of you, is actually a word that people use in educated vocabulary. It's not just a science word. So peripheral means on the edges. You'll also hear the periphery is the edges. So you might hear in language arts a peripheral character. That means not one of the central characters, one of the ones on the edges. And the peripheral nervous system is the connection between your body and the outside world. So it's what first responds to the outside world, whether that's like touching something or even responding to something that you don't realize you're responding to. So like when you get hot and sweat, your body is responding to temperature without you even realizing that that's happening. And really, the peripheral nervous system is the nerves in your body, and those transmit or move electrical or chemical signals between the organs and the brain. So those organs could be your fingers, so you're sensing, you're touching something. It could also be like just your skin in general, or it could be internal organs. So it's transmitting electrical or chemical, and we're going to talk on Monday about the difference between electrical signals and chemical signals. And that transmits these signals up to the brain. So that's how information gets around your body. It goes through the nerves. So then we have the central nervous system. So that's the body's master control. And again, normally you would start with the central nervous system, but you're going to see that I use the term peripheral nervous system in here. So the first one is the brain, right? The brain regulates everything in your body. It regulates your movement. So right now I keep clicking on a mouse. It regulates your reflexes. So that could be your physical reflexes, like if you've been to the doctor and they like hit your knee in a certain place and your leg kind of bounces up. It could also be like your startle reflex. If somebody jumps out at you from behind a corner and you startle, that's a reflex. It regulates your senses, so it's what allows you to see and smell and touch and hear and taste. It regulates your emotion. It's how you feel happy or sad or angry. It regulates your thoughts. When you're walking home thinking of this amazing stuff you learned about the brain, that's your brain is in fact what's regulating that. And then other things as well. But all of that's regulated through your brain, which is why we often talk about the brain, like when we're talking about ruler curriculum, and we're saying like this is how, if you're in the red, for example, and you're trying to get into the green or into the yellow, this is how you can do it and what you need to understand about your brain, because it's your brain that's regulating all of that. And then the other part of the central nervous system is the spinal cord. And so the spinal cord is a specific bundle of nerves that connect the brain to the peripheral nervous system. And so that's why if, for example, you damage your spinal cord. Now, your spinal cord is encased in vertebrae, which are bone. So it's well protected, but this is why if you damage your spinal cord, you break your back, often people will say. But if you damage your spinal cord, part of you could be paralyzed, because then those signals that travel from your brain to your legs that say move, that signal can't get to those nerves because there's a break in the spinal cord. And so there's no way to send that message, so the movement can't happen. So these are really the three parts that we're looking at with the nervous system. So the supplemental questions for non-honors is, what is the overall purpose of the nervous system? And then for honors, you're going to compare and contrast what we call the autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous systems. And give examples in your answers so that you truly understand the difference and the similarities in these two. So I'll give you a hint. They are both part of the peripheral nervous system. But now figure out, how are they similar, how are they different, and give some examples. That's it. Pretty easy.